Hi guys, so today we're going to start with the scientific method. So I have a PowerPoint here. There is an attached doc that you need to fill out as we go through the PowerPoint. These are guided notes to make sure you get everything, but we don't have to write everything down. So if you are remote, please make sure you're filling in the Google Doc. You can also do this if you're at home, B students. Or B students, I gave you a paper copy of this in class last week so that you can fill it in. If you fill it in on the paper copy, please take a picture and submit it. If you fill it in on the Google Doc, then just turn it in on the Google Doc. All right. So all scientists use the scientific method. You have done this before, so we're just going to review and make sure we have specific notes to refer to this week as we work with the scientific method. So what is science? The goal of science is to investigate and understand the natural world, to explain events in the natural world, and to use those explanations to make predictions. Science deals only with the natural world, and scientists collect and organize. I'm trying to move this. All right, never mind, we'll work. Collect and organize information in an orderly way, looking for patterns and connections between events. Scientists propose that explanations that can be tested by examining evidence. And science is an organized way of using evidence to learn about the natural world. So if you see under B, you should have recorded this information next to scientists, these two in red under number 3, and number 4 is already written for you. So how's science done? Science begins with an observation. Please write that in the blank. This is the process of gathering information about events or processes in a careful, orderly way. Data is the next blank, is the information gathered from making observations. There are 2 types of data. Quantitative data, they are the numbers. That's what you actually record in your numbers, and they're obtained by counting or measuring your result. Qualitative data is the descriptions and involve characteristics that cannot be measured. These are things like your 5 senses. What do you see, smell, hear? Okay. A hypothesis is a scientific explanation for a set of observations. It must be stated in a way that is testable. The hypothesis is just a possible answer to a question, and it must be thoroughly tested. Remember, we use this as an if-then statement. The scientific method is a series of steps used by scientists to solve a problem or answer a question. We're going to go over the steps now. The first step is observing and asking a question. Then you form a hypothesis, design a controlled experiment, record and analyze results, and draw conclusions. So let's talk about step 1. Step 1, when you're observing or asking a question, you're looking for a problem or question to identify first. So for example, how much water can a root hair absorb? Why does a plant stem bend towards light? What effect does temperature have on heart rate? Next, you need to form a hypothesis. So a hypothesis is a possible explanation to the question or problem. It is simply a prediction and has not yet been proven or disproven. It must be stated in a way that's testable. And a statement is considered testable if evidence is collected that does not or does support it. Step number 3, designing a controlled experiment. The factors in an experiment can be changed or called variables. Please make sure you write that on the line. Some examples of variables would be changing the temperature, the amount of light present, time, concentration of solution used. Controlled experiments work with one variable at a time. If you change several variables, the scientists would not know which variable was responsible for the results. In a controlled experiment, only one variable is changed at a time. All other variables should be unchanged or controlled. An experiment is based on the comparison between a control group with an experimental group. There are two types of groups are identical except for one factor. The control group serves as the comparison. It is the same as the experiment group, except that one variable is being tested and removed. The experimental group shows the effect of the variable that is being tested. For example, in order to test the effectiveness of a new vaccine, that means to see if the vaccine works, 50 volunteers were selected and divided into two groups. One group will be the control group, and the other will be the experimental group. Both groups are given a pill to take that is identical in size, shape, color, and texture. The control group. So even though the volunteers are given identical looking pills, the control group will not actually receive the vaccine. The experimental group is the group that does receive the vaccine. And the things we keep constant include size, shape, color, and texture of the pill. The variable that's being changed is whether the pill contains the vaccine or not. There are two variables in an experiment. The independent variable is the variable that is deliberately changed by the scientist. So that's the one that you change in your experiment. The dependent variable is the one observed during the experiment. This data, or the data is collected as a result of changing the independent variable. So in the experiment we just talked about, what is the independent variable? That is the addition of the vaccine to pills that were given to volunteers. The dependent variable, or the one that you are measuring, is the health of the people receiving the vaccine. Okay. Step 4, recording and analyzing results. So the data that has been collected must be organized and analyzed to determine whether it is reliable. Does the data support or not support the hypothesis? Finally, you draw conclusions. The evidence from the experiment is used to determine if the hypothesis is supported or not. Experiments must be repeated over and over when the repeated results should always be the same before a valid conclusion is released. Remember, our magic number is 3, at least 3 times for us. And also, please remember, it's okay if your hypothesis is not correct. Finally, today we're going to talk about forming a theory. A theory may be formed after the hypothesis has been tested many times and is supported by much evidence. A theory is a broad and comprehensive statement of what is thought to be true, and it is always supported by evidence. That's it for today. We will pick back up on this tomorrow, where we work on an example. Have a great day, and please make sure you let me know if there's any questions.